Greetings everyone, Shiv here. Alright, so we're going to be reviewing 4 more cards for One Night in Karazhan, a Hearthstone adventure. Alright, so we got 4 cards. Some of them are bad, just gonna say it right now. A couple of them unsure about, some of them could be pretty damn good. Alright, so let's get to this. First card we have is for the Warlock. It is Malkazar's Imp. 1 mana, 1/3 Demon. Okay, Demon. Okay, so there's 2 lines of thoughts with this. The whole discard mechanic aspect, whenever you discard a card, draw a card, it's actually kind of cool. I'm going to say this right now. I kind of like this, all right? The whole discard punishment for certain minions has always been kind of this weird sort of thing. Like, Warlocks have been okay with it when it was discard 2 for Doomguard because of the value you got off Doomguard. But when it came to minions like Succubus, they were less favorable to it. And of course, there's always the, Soulfire that exists as well. Now you have something that's allowing you to utilize and benefit to some degree off of these mechanics that are meant as punishments. So I like that. I think that this could actually incentivize some really cool stuff. I think Succubus has a really good potential here just because curve. Play this turn 1. Turn 2 comes Succubus. You lose a card, gain a card. And then people are going to realize, yeah, this is going to be kind of problematic. I need to deal with this right away. And also later on, say turn 6, you could play this down as well as Doomguard and get basically a 2-card cycle, which, yeah, you are dropping 2 cards, but you're also gaining a card. So you're also gaining 2 cards too. So, I mean, you are cycling through. I like that concept quite a bit. But is this going to be overly good? Well, you don't really get a choice on what you're discarding, so it's somewhat problematic. And let's be honest, RNG could be a little bit of a bastard. But I do think that this is a very interesting concept, and I want to see what else we're going to be getting in this set, and seeing if we could possibly flush something out with this. Alright, our next card we have is a mage card. It is the Babbling Book. Now, when I saw this card, I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Another 1-drop for mage. And then, okay, yeah, it's a 1/1, but shit, they've only got one 1-drop minion. That's Mana Worm, and that card's pretty fucking baller, to be perfectly honest with you. And not getting it turn 1 really sucks. So having another option, I was like, all right, yeah, I kind of feel really good. And then I started applying base logic here. Battlecry, add a random mage spell to your hand. Now, there's some pretty decent mage spells out there, Frostbolt, Fireball. A lot of them you wouldn't mind getting, a second, third one of, or even fourth in some cases. And then I started realizing, yeah, but how bad do you feel on turn 1 getting a Pyroblast or a Flame Strike? And I was like, yeah, I'd feel pretty fucking bad. But I also thought, hey, what if I got a Polymorph and I don't have Polymorphs on my deck and they play something I can't normally deal with, but that Polymorph then enables it. So, I mean, you kind of get to this whole devil's advocate, trying to validate the card here, like, well, what if scenario here, what if scenario there? And at that point, I started realizing I'm having to come up with a lot more what if scenarios for justification for this card, and my opinion of the card started decreasing quite dramatically. It really did. I mean, its body is pretty damn crap. Now, obviously, some of you might disagree with this, and I already know where it's going to go into. Oh, what about Tempo Mage? What about Yogg-Saron Tempo Mage? Or anything with Antonidas, more spells is good. What if people wanted to start running, insert X archetype that nobody plays in Mage? Wouldn't this also help in there? Well, yeah, sure. What about in Freeze Mage? Wouldn't this work in Freeze Mage? That is actually the one scenario I will say, yeah, sure, Freeze Mage. There you go. Freeze Mage. Have a nice day. Outside of that, not really. But even in Tempo Mage, I kind of feel like this is not overly good. Because you come back to that same scenario of turn 1 Pyroblast. And it sits as a dead card. So, but, I mean, it could work. It really could. But it's that whole RNG factor. But outside deck design stuff has been traditionally relatively good. But being shitted on by RNG has, well, since the game was in closed beta tests, been a thing. So you kind of run the risk there. But it might actually be worth the risk. So all in all, I rate this card kind of like as the in-between. We'll have to wait and see on it. So, moving on to our third card, we have the Bookworm. My God, I have never seen people more divided about the value of a card than I have on this one. I've seen people just praising this card as like, oh my God, it's a better Stampeding Kodo. And to which other people went, oh my God, where'd you fucking learn to do math? This is a worse Stampeding Kodo. Not even kidding. It's like people are yelling at each other in two different forms over the value of this card. It's actually quite hilarious. Alright, so, is this a good card? This card can be really good. It can be used in pretty much all three of the major dragon decks quite nicely. And I actually started running through permutations for, say, like Dragon Warrior. First one I went with, because I know that deck quite well. I've played quite a bit of it. And, alright, so what I like about this is it can go up against other Temple Warriors and actually crush a shit out of a lot of their stuff. Like, all of their really good stuff gets fucking knocked to pieces pretty damn quick from it. But what I didn't like was, again, you have to have a dragon in order to activate it. So you're almost always going to have to hold back in order to get the value on this. And it is, again, 6. And there's a lot of things that you could do to kind of mitigate that around. So, but, I mean, it does take care of a lot of stuff. But it's so late in the game that, I mean, you're going to have to really be able to, you know, go fire for fire until you start getting that point before you start really advancing your agenda. And I don't know if that's overly going to be a good thing there. But it does take out quite a few things just in the whole mirror match quite nicely. But then I came to this one thing. What do I replace for it? And do I run 2? And what I came to was Draconoid Crusher because, you know, simple mana replacements where almost everybody's going to go. And so it became, do I really want to get rid of a possible 9 for 3/6? Ooh, I could not answer that question, ladies and gentlemen. I just honestly couldn't. Though, a lot of times Draconoid Crusher, when I have to play it, it's a 6/6, which automatically is better statted than this. But it doesn't remove a minion on its own when you bring it out. But it does have a requirement. So it's like, The removal also has a couple other really good benefits over just base trading. Acolyte of Pain, you don't draw, your opponents don't draw a card. Imp Gang Boss, it doesn't spawn out a minion that they can exploit over. The fact is, if you're going up against a player who is using Stampeding Kodos, boom, you can then kill the Stampeding Kodo the next turn after it's been played. It's like, oh, you play Stampeding Kodo, Bookworm. You know, it's kind of like, aha, I've got the slightly better version, and slightly worse at the same time. So yeah, it does open up some really cool possibilities. Another thing I really like about this card is it kills freaking Twilight Guardian. Hands out, like, well, I got a Twilight Guardian, so unless you're running Bookworm, fuck. But at that point, wouldn't you also kind of want to run, like, Black Knight? Wouldn't that be a little bit better? I mean, it's a 4/5 versus a 3/6. So, I mean, at least it's going to have more impact value, but it's a tough call. This one's more versatile where Black Knight isn't. So, yeah, there's that. It also kills Senjin Shieldmaster. Let's not overlook that. Pretty much everything under 5, well, everything around the 4 below mana cost and Hunters goes to shit with the exception of Houndmaster. I mean, this really does kind of shred a lot of things. But is it really... I'm still out on this. I mean, in some ways I can definitely see it's good. In some ways I don't. Now, Paladin, I actually think this is a really cool concept here. We've seen Stampeding Kodo being used in Paladin quite often. Mostly because of humility and things of that nature. Well, you can also use that here, and it's a dragon. So Dragon Paladin kind of gets a little bit more validity, but is it good in there? I'm kind of waiting to see, because Paladins outside of the Kodo thing haven't really had much of good direct removal other than, you know, a quality board removals. And Paladin's got some pretty good tools in this recent previous set that we might actually see Paladins coming up with more control-based decks, and this could be one of the keys to it. Now, 3/6 is really annoying to deal with outside of, you know, certain big ass spells or executes an insert removal option there. But I mean, if you're using those on this, then you don't have them for other bigger threats, which we know Paladins, that's basically 2 Ragnaroses, a Tyrion, and God knows what else he wants to put in that damn deck. So yeah, that kind of gets to a very interesting scenario there. So yeah, I would definitely say Dragon Paladin has my vote on this. Alright. Now it gets to Priest. Again, we come up to a quandary. And again, it's sitting at that 6 mana slot. Okay? We're talking about the Cabal Shadow Priest versus the Mana Worm. Stealing something that's 2 or less versus killing something that's 3 or less. Okay, so when I steal something, that is a tempo gain for me, and it's forcing you to reinvest more into removing my board state. Not to mention one of those things is a 4/5. Where just killing something, okay, well then you could directly kill this thing, and then it kind of bounces back to neutral. So in theory, the Cabal Shadow Priest actually has a higher value state for me than this card. But we don't generally see Cabal Shadow Priest being run too often with Dragon Priest much anymore. So then comes the question of, well, how do I fit this in? What's getting replaced in this? And truth be told, I mean, there are a couple choices I could make here, but none of them are overly that good. But it is another Dragon minion that I could possibly get some value off other cards with. But I'm not 100% sure on that. I mean, yeah, the effect is good, but priests already have that effect in a spell, and it's only 2 mana, and pretty much can be used on demand. So, yeah, I mean, Shadow Word Pain with legs that has a requirement, but that requirement isn't so bad in, Dragon Priest. Again, it's a tough call, and I'm just going to say it's a coin flip for me. But, I mean, I could see this working really good, but at the same time, not 100% sure. Alright, moving on to the final card. And, trigger warning, this card might piss off a lot of people, because according to the forums, this is arguably one of the worst legendaries they've ever fucking seen. Morose. 3 mana for a 1/1 stealth minion. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 Steward. I saw this card initially because Tice tweeted it, and I'm like going, well, I guess now we have something that Power Word Tentacle might actually be good with. Or as I call it, Power Word Hentai. Yeah, this is just a bad card on so many levels. Like, hey, I got an idea. Let's introduce a minion, a 3 attack, 3 life minion that when you play it, does a 1 damage AoE to everything on the field. A couple months later, it's like, hey, I got an idea. Let's make a legendary that only has 1 life and stealth that summons 1/1s. I mean, what's the likelihood people are going to be playing Warrior, huh? Seriously. Because Warrior is so popular, because that ghoul is in almost... Actually, it is in every single fucking design. This card is... Fact of the matter is, rogues shit on this, druids shit on this, anybody with an AoE or even a fucking knife juggler shits all over this poor fucking legendary. Its value is pretty fucking bad. I'm not gonna lie, guys. It's pretty fucking bad. The only time I see this as having any kind of value is well, actually, I can't even say that. I was gonna say maybe with Cult Master, but fuck no, this isn't even that good. I don't really like this. I really feel like this is like, well, we just wanted Morose to have his own card. Here you go. It's a bad card! But, as Ben Brode has stated repeatedly, not all cards are created equal. We're going to have bad cards. So, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. Here's your Magma Razor for this expansion. Yeah, I know, that's pretty fucking tragic. But, it's just not a good card. Now, I am saying this from the perspective of ladder. Now, in Arena, this is a bad card. Brawl might actually be worthwhile. Maybe in some of the actual adventure wings, we might find a value for this card. We honestly might find a value, guys. But this is such a bad card. So bad. So bad. If I could dust this thing, I would. All right, that's my take on it. If I could dust it, I would. And Morose, I think you're a great character in the World of Warcraft lore, but I would dust you in a minute. Anyway, guys, that is all for this review. If you like these videos, please like, subscribe. It helps support the channel, and I appreciate it. Now, down in the comment section, all right, here's what I got for you. I want you to tell me what you think of these 4 cards. Which ones do you really like? What are some cool scenarios and synergies you're seeing? And am I wrong for hating fucking Morose as much as I do? Let me know down in the comment section. Till next time, this is Shiv saying, stay safe, have fun, may orange juice bless you, and peace!